So there is this wave about shortfall of the Southeast in army recruitment. Like the energy they are using to talk about it is kind of surprising. But when Igbos talk about marginalization, excluding Igbos in appointments in government, like no one is coming out to talk about it. But the way they are talking about Southeast in this recruitment in army is something else, honestly. Igbos have said it that they are not joining. And they're saying that at the end of the day, now Igbos will start, complaining that they are not promoting them, this and that. Even those people that have been there for how many years now, how many have they promoted in army, my people? So it's only these new people now that they're going to promote, right? You guys will keep joking because I don't think that any Igbo person right now is even interested in this country called Nigeria, let alone of dying for Nigerians. The truth is that it will be very, very difficult to convince Igbos, especially their youth, to join this army of a thing. Honestly, they can see it that Igbos are no longer part of Nigeria because of the way the so-called Nigeria is even treating Igbos, right? So let me allow you guys to listen to this video. At least some people are now coming out to tell Nigerians like the reason Igbos are not so interested in this army recruitment. Just take a listen and hear what they said in this particular video.
Well, joining us now is public affairs analyst Dr. Majid Dahiru to throw more light on this story. Thank you so much for being on Newsnight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, there are those who have this perception that this is just about lack of sensitization and awareness. But I have to ask you, is this really about awareness or something deeper than that? A deeper crisis of trust that no amount of awareness can fix? What do you think?
I think it's not just about awareness, like you rightly pointed out. And I think your report did justice to this issue. Mm-hmm. Beyond lack of interest, I think there are a combination of factors responsible for the low level of recruitment in the Southeast. Some other factors include socioeconomic and then political. I listened carefully to Dr. Simon Okeke. He dwelled more on the political. But before then, you have to also consider the socio-economic. Now, the Southeast region, if you agree with me, is one of the most prosperous regions in Nigeria because of the industry and enterprise that characterize that region. And so, most youths might not be generally, naturally too, attracted to a profession that will not pay them well, that has very poor remuneration. For context, a private soldier in the Nigerian army earns about 50,000+ naira a month. A young boy in
even with the minimum wage?
But I don't know whether they have adjusted for the minimum wage. But for the last time we checked, this was, the pay package for a private soldier in the Nigerian army. A master warrant officer, at least the highest rank within the rank and file cadre, goes on with about 180,000 naira. And if you know how many years we put in to get to that level, now if you compare this to the U.S. Army, for instance, a private soldier in the U.S. Army earns about $21,000 per annum. That is higher than what our chief of defense staff earns per annum. So it is a poor remuneration issue. And so for a young man in the Southeast, he will earn that amount of money, the amount of money a soldier will earn in a month. A young boy that is doing petty trading in area market or in the Shami market will earn quadruple that amount in a month. So why should he or she abandon something that can take him home properly every month, take our family, now enlist into the army? And so this is the socio-economic aspect of it. And I can assure you too that many of the Nigerians that are already enlisted into the army are so frustrated that they may want to leave at any time from now because it simply cannot take care of the socio-economic needs. Now, talking about the political angle, and that is very important too. So for the Southeast, it will be a double jeopardy if the kind of interest you see from other regions are expressed from the Southeast, because somehow, yes, since the end of the Civil War, there has been some, what people perceive, and sometimes it could be real too, as though to prevent the kind of strength that was displayed during the Civil War. Because if you know the structure of the army and the police before the 1966 coup and counter coup, the Southeast people dominated the officer cadre of the Nigerian army. I mean, about 60% of the officer corps were drawn from the Southeast. And so when the Civil War broke out, the separatist war broke out, they had enough men and resources to be able to defend their right to secession for 3 years, and they held down the Nigerian army for 3 years in a battle. So I think there was that attempt too to kind of reduce, in order not to resurrect the spirit of the Biafran secessionist tendencies. But again, some previous government have also done a lot to appease the Southeast and draw them closer. But something happened between 2015 and 2023. When the Buhari government came on board, it put a concrete ceiling on the rise of Nigerians of Southeast origin in any of Nigeria's security services. So not a single person from the Southeast was appointed at the apex leadership of any of the Nigerian security services for 8 years.
So all of this have combined the historical grievances on the part of the Southeast,
exclusion,
yes,
and of course the fact that
and the socio-economic
it doesn't pay well to be a soldier today, a police officer today in
Nigeria, whether it applies to a youth in the Southeast or any part of the country.
Exactly.
And just like you said, if care is not taken, more and more would be deserting or leaving the military. So how do you now frame the messaging in a way that will make the army or the forces more attractive, especially to the youth in the Southeast? Because the concern here is that the enrollment is ridiculously low, 200 for the whole of the Southeast, when you compare with the other parts of the North, where you have about 3,000, 4,000 in some cases.
Yes, because the Southeast has some peculiarities.
How do you begin to convince?
Okay, 2 things must be done. First and foremost, we must reappraise the remuneration packages for our officers and men of the armed forces. It's very important. Until that is done, until we design a pay package that truly compensates for the contract of unlimited liability that you sign when you enroll into the Nigerian Armed Forces, because it's a matter of life and death. Until there's adequate compensation for that contract of unlimited liability, I do not think people from the Southeast who have an option. I mean, this is the headquarters of commerce and industry in Nigeria. They have an option. The Igbo boy institution, entrepreneurial institution in the Southeast, has ensured generational regeneration of wealth in a manner that has made the Southeast the most prosperous region in Nigeria. So why would somebody leave something that actually pays off better than enrolling into the army? That would have been maybe patriotism, that is sacrifice for fatherland. But when somebody is also marginalized, like I tried to make the point about the fact that in the last 8 years, 8 years, the Southeast was excluded from any of the leadership of the armed forces, including not just the civil defense, but even the road safety. It was that bad.
Has that even changed now?
Okay, the current administration has at least broken that jinx. It's like the current administration has lifted that embargo when they appointed Admiral Alike Chukwugala from Enugu as the chief of naval staff. So why would I enroll into an institution that I'm not sure I will get to the peak of my career because of my ethnicity or my region of origin? So the Nigerian state, beyond just doing sensitization, must address these issues. If you provide adequate compensation for people that are ready to lay down their lives to defend the fatherland on one hand, and particularly in the Southeast, you must explore the options of inclusivity, equity, fairness, and justice in a manner that allows competence, that allows, capacity, that allows meritocracy to be the yardstick for rising to the top.
Fantastic.
Until this is institutionalized,
but
I'm afraid we'll keep having these problems in the Southeast.
Yeah, very quickly. What are the risks if this gap keeps widening? And on the flip side, there are those who have made the case to say that there can be no promotion if there's no recruitment in the first instance, because there will be nobody to promote if they do not come into the fold in the first instance. If you understand their argument, I mean, you say they've not been promoted, but there are those who say we will only promote those who have even enrolled.
No,
and we're having apathy of people who are not even going into the fold.
What are that about the Nigerian forces? Promotion is done regularly and routinely. And if you qualify for the next rank, you are promoted. But I'm talking about leadership, which is a political decision. The appointment of the chief of army staff.
But they're appointed from within.
What I'm saying is, when you have a region that appears to be marked and prevented from getting to that political decision that decides the leadership of the armed forces. It's because the appointment of Army Chief of Staff is not a promotion, it's an appointment. No exams are written, it's at the discretion of the Commander-in-Chief. Right? We have seen a pattern where in 8 years, 8 solid years, a whole generation of armed forces personnel from the Southeast were excluded from the leadership. And the dream of every soldier, of every officer, is to rise to that leadership position.
The dream of anybody.
Of anybody. Yeah. So if I will not rise to the top,
why join?
Why join?
So are there any risk? Because
so
we have to
the risk
is
on the part of Nigeria. An army, a Nigerian army that does not include officers and men from the southeast part of Nigeria cannot be truly described as a Nigerian army or an army that is Nigerian.
All right.
So it means the energy, the talents, the competencies of people of the southeast that should have come in to complement, what is supposed to be Nigerian is lacking.
This town hall meeting in Enugu State is one of the campaigns undertaken by the Nigerian Army to boost enlistment in the latest army recruitment. Leader of the 2025 Army Recruitment Enlightenment Team, Brigadier General Chima Ekato, says the Southeast is struggling to fill its quota. Citing the case of Enugu State, he says out of 200 slots allocated to the state in this year's recruitment, the state barely got 100 applications. This, according to him, is a recurring decimal in other southeastern states. Ekato, who urged Southeast youths to apply in their numbers to fill the quota in the ongoing recruitment process, noted that states like Kaduna had received over 3,000 applications.
We know that unemployment is pervasive, and there are a lot of young men that really want to join the army. But for some of these sentiments being bandied around, some of them lack encouragement from the local government councils. Some people used to say that they apply, but the council chairman will not sign for them, or DPO will not sign for, or one thing or the other. The point is that we have come to get the buy-in of the grassroots politicians, our royal fathers, to help us to raise these numbers so that Enugu State can fill up their slots.
Historically, Southeasterners have had a strong presence in the military, with many officers like Agui Ronsi and recently Lieutenant General Ihejirika rising to enviable ranks. But all that seems to be changing.
Yes, come in.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Simon Okeke is the chairman of the Igbo Elders Consultative Forum. He attributes the apathy to protest against exclusion of Southeasterners from top political positions and governments.
So, there's apathy in anything governance, because where they have expected to be treated in same way as the youths from other parts of the country, they are not. In ordinary employment, they are excluded. They only hear that recruitment is going on when action has been taken. They just go in for formality. It is a cumulative action. It's cumulative. Since the end of the war, Igbo have been excluded from the governance of the country. And their children know it. And that's why they fight for themselves, because they know that a few of them that are gotten into one office or the other, they are just relegated because they have no godfather.
Okeke, who served as the chairman of the Police Service Commission from 2001 to 2006, says while in office, he noticed there was a ceiling for persons from some geopolitical zones from rising to the peak of their career.
In 2001, I was privileged to be appointed by the president of Obasanjo as to chair the Police Service Commission. I found that Igbos are not there. Because those that are there are not promoted beyond a certain level. They can never go beyond a certain level. It's an unwritten law. Even in the army where you are talking about, how many Igbos are appointed chief of the army? How many? That's the highest you can think of.
The 89-year-old retired surveyor lauds the efforts of the army in trying to remedy the situation, but wants the army to do more.
If Igbos are assured today, and they mean it not just by talking, that if they are recruited, if they submit themselves to go to the army, or police, or navy, or air force, they will be treated like others. You find them, instead of jappering, what do you call it? Japper to out of the country, to fend for themselves. You find them there.
As Nigeria seeks to bolster its internal security in this time of insecurity, analysts say there's a need to reconcile all differences and ensure key government institutions are detribalized and all citizens given a sense of belonging so as to contribute to the nation's development.
My history, and I dare say yours, tells me that the southeast zone of Nigeria predominated the officer corps of the Nigerian Army before January 15, 1966. All that fizzled out after our 30-month avoidable civil war. Now, the Nigerian Army has expressed concerns that youths from the zone are shunning recruitment into the Army and has highlighted the need for sensitization. But the team leader of the year 2025 Nigerian Army Recruitment Awareness Team, himself a Southeasterner, Brigadier General Chima Ekafo, is in the region in a bid to change the narrative. He was at Umuahia to sensitize his youths on the importance of taking up the slots allocated to the zone. Over now to the power of conviction.
It is understandable that people from the Southeast are reluctant to join the Nigerian Army. Because when you join the Army, you are laying your life down for the flag.
Yeah.
And because of these Biafran sentiments, some of them believe that they don't want to join and fight for the Nigerian state. But it's unfortunate. Unfortunate because 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, when there is need to appoint officer corps at the top of the Nigerian Army, they would solidly discover that they don't have officers at the table.
Within their ranks.
And then they will now complain again of marginalization, of how they have not appointed somebody from Southeast as a top army general.
Yeah.
But if you don't join, you cannot have the opportunity of rising through the ranks to get to the top of it. So they have to look at that. You cannot say because you are upset with the Nigerian state or because you are desirous of Biafran state, you will now let this opportunity pass to join the Nigerian Army. Because if you don't join the Nigerian Army will move forward and put people from other regions, and eventually these people will move up the ladder and then they will get to the top and they will be the one that can be appointed into positions. So it is important for leaders and leaders of thought in the East to sensitize their youth to know that it is important for them to be part of the army, the Nigerian Army, because as a component part of Nigeria, their interest in the Nigerian Army is also important. It's unfortunate what has happened because, like the news said, they used to dominate the Nigerian Army.
Oh yeah.
Before 1966 school, they used to dominate the Nigerian Army.
Meritoriously,
because a lot of them joined. A lot of them went to when the colonial masters were here, and they were recruiting like this. At that time, most times at that time, the Western region were not so enthusiastic in joining.
Yeah.
It's just like the same thing that was happening now. They were not.
As a matter of fact, because of the preponderance of officers from the southeast region then,
Yeah.
the late Sardauna said to his boys, you people join the army.
Yes, in fact, they were going to schools to recruit young people.
Yeah.
People like President Buhari were recruited in schools.
Yeah.
Because at that time, a lot of the regions were reluctant to join the colonial army. And it was the Southeast that were really joined. And they benefited from it because as at the time we got the independence, most of the commanders were from the Southeast region. But because of the war, and they had to go back to the East, and by the time they came back, they didn't have the kind of opportunity that they used to have. Yeah. So it's important for us not to make that kind of mistake again. The war has ended a long time ago. As far as I'm concerned, there is no Biafra on ground. It can be a dream, but there's no Biafra on ground. So for you to prefer to be loyal to the Biafran flag instead of Nigerian flag is delusional. Yeah. So it is important to synthesize the youth to say it is important for you to join the Nigerian army because, like I said, 20 years, 30 years down the line, you will not be at the table when they are appointing people that will control and supervise the Nigerian army. At that time, they should not come out to say they are being marginalized. Because if you are not at the table, there is no way you can be in the position of authority.
Well, a good thing that an officer, a brigadier general from the southeast region, for those who missed it, Brigadier General Chima Ekafo is in the region in a bid to convince youths that please come join the army. There are allocations for the region.
Yeah. Well, I think just like Mayor has said, there are a lot of reasons why the enthusiasm is low in joining the Nigerian army.
Understandably so.
Yes. I think in the first instance, he said, the Brigadier General said in Abia State, for instance, out of 200 slots that were given to Abia State, only 53 people applied. That's less than 25, roughly 25% of the population of the slot given to Abia State.
Yeah.
And that's not a good one at all. I believe there are so many reasons, apart from the fact that the spirit of nationalism has declined over the years. In the past, the spirit to serve Nigeria, was very high all over the country. But now, it's not just...
Otherwise donning the Nigerian uniform, the
of
army
course,
uniform, police.
It was a source of pride, But now you discover that even when we were growing up, you wanted to go to University of Maiduguri, ABU, you want to do your service, you want to go to Sokoto. But now you discover that people are shrinking. You want your, for security reasons, you want your son to go to the nearest university. You want him to do his civil service. If you put him in Adamawa State, you want to return him back to your state. So there is a general decline in terms of the spirit of nationalism in the country. We can't throw that away. The other reason is that the Nigerian army, a lot of people think that because of the asymmetric war that is going on all over the country now, there is the prospect of being posted to, troubled areas, that immediately after your training, you may be compelled to go and fight terrorism. And a lot of people, a lot of parents, not even the youth alone, they don't want their children to go into such, unlike maybe 25 years ago. You are joining the army for a different reason. You are thinking of going to NDA, going for courses abroad and all that. But now, you know that when you join the army, there is a likelihood that after the first 6 months, you might be, seconding into this. So, but I think it's important to educate our people because there are consequences in the future if they are not able to meet up with their quota.
Okay, it's time now to fall back on team leader Babajide Kolade Otitoju. BKO, just wondering how you weigh in here.
I think that the Biafra agitation has a role to play in this state of affairs.
Was bekommst du eigentlich von deiner Bank? Bei Trade Republic kriegst du 2,5% Zinsen auf dein Girokonto. Und wenn du Geld ausgibst, 1% zurück auf jede Karte.
People are reluctant to join the army. If outside of the southeast, people are struggling to join the army. I know some of those who have reached out to me, how do I get in? But this is a peculiar situation in the southeast. Don't forget too that even when the idea of the students' loan came, the leadership of NEL Fund complained that in the southeast, people refused to apply for students' loan. The bulk of the people, many of the people who applied were actually from the far north.
Wow.
But people in the southeast refused to apply. They looked at the number of people who applied from the schools in the southeast. It was a very infinitesimal number. And the Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, Benjamin Kalu, was so concerned. And he was asking, what really is the reason? This is something that indigent students can benefit from. And it's not as if every student in the Southeast is rich, lives in luxury. So an opportunity to be able to get educated without having to spend so much. The people didn't apply. What they then did was to say, okay, let's sensitize them for that. Let's break it down for them. Let them realize that, look, there's a lot to gain. My suspicion is that they just refused to apply because they just felt, look, this thing will not work. The sort of tales that we read on social media whereby every effort that government makes get dismissed. We have educated people abroad who are trained here in Nigeria, who are using the certificates that universities in Nigeria gave them to live and work abroad. But they are putting down everything Nigerian. They do not see anything good about our country. So when the policy comes, is introduced, they say, no, it cannot work. My suspicion is that level of pessimism, or a lot worse level of pessimism, has been introduced to even recruitment into the army. How do you explain, for example, a situation in which Abia State had 200 slots and only about 50 took it up? That was last year. Whereas the other states they are eager to join the army. They are not even saying, no, they could end up being drafted to the war. If you join the army, you know that ultimately you have to fight in a war, either in form of peacekeeping. It is something that you sign to do.
Yeah.
So death will come. Most times, death will not find you on your bed. Death will find you maybe on the battleground or somewhere else. Those who died yesterday in Borno State, some of them were on the road. So I believe that the sensitization will help. The last time we had a Southeasterner as Chief of Army Staff was during the time of General Hejrika. And at that time, it was Jonathan that was in power. So I also think that when they see some of their people getting to the very top,
yeah,
you see more of them getting to the very top. The Chief of Naval Staff, for example, is from the Southeast. Although some people are telling us all that nonsense that is actually from Kogi and all that. From it's nonsense. It's from the Southeast. So if more service chiefs come from the Southeast, maybe in future things will begin to change. But there's a general apathy. Yeah. And that has to be addressed. And speaking politically now, the concerns of our people in the Southeast about the way they've been placed within the Nigerian Federation has to be addressed. Yeah. Once that is addressed, these issues will not come up.
Thank you very kindly.
So my people, that is it. The truth is that it will be very, very difficult to convince Igbos to join this army, honestly, because they have seen it all. Even the salary is laughable. Why should you go and die for Nigeria that doesn't even care for you? So it will be very, very difficult to convince them. Even this time around, 200 youth from the Southeast have already registered for this recruitment. So in future, if they did not correct whatever they're doing to Igbos right now, the time will come that you will not see any Igbo youth joining this army, honestly. So my people, that is it. I say make I bring this update to you guys. Do wait to subscribe for more updates. Like the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and I will see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.